all we can do. Let me. Okay. All right. I think we are live. Let me just. Oh, yep. Yes, we're live. And there's already. It says 5 people watching. So hello, people who are
All
friends of
right.
Ben. um,
Oh, come on. I'm sure there are people that are there for you.
yeah, I'm sure as well. But hello everybody and welcome to another filmmaker chat. As you guys know, I do this every month, or maybe you didn't know. Now you do. I do this every month, and originally it was intended to be a Patreon only content, but because of quarantine, I thought it would be great to do them as live streams, and then you can watch the replays or watch ones that you missed if you sign up for Patreon, and you can access basically the archive and rewatch them and take notes, and if you ever miss one or whatever, so you can still do that for past ones with the link in the description below. There's a link to my Patreon account, but this one is going to be special, Ben. I don't think I told you, but I'm going to actually let this one just live on the channel forever. So
Cool.
it will be live for everybody as my Christmas present. Also, because I didn't get a video out this week, so this is my video, and we already have people in the chat. We have Tara, we have Lockpicking Engineer, hello, and Brittany Beck, and she is here for Ben. She said she is just making it clear,
Okay.
only here for Ben. But yes, as I mentioned, a video didn't come out this week, but this one will be viewable for everybody. And I just want to make an important announcement. I am taking the rest of the year off. For those of you who have been a subscriber since the beginning, you've seen I've been hitting this hard for 2 years now and not missed a video ever. So I am going to actually take the holidays off and spend some time with my family and hopefully not be on a computer, because I'm a workaholic and it's really hard not to be on a computer. But that is the hope. And so I will not see the rest of you. I won't be releasing content till next year, but I will see you then, and stay tuned. So I just wanted you all to know so you don't freak out. You're like, where's the video? That's what's happening. I'm taking a break. I still love you, though. Not you, Ben, but I mean, I'm sure. I mean, when I get to know you, I'm sure.
We'll get there. We'll
Yeah,
get there. It's
we'll get
okay.
there. It's a slow process. But I am so excited because I am here today with Ben. And Ben, I should have asked you, Tedesco? Is that how you say it? Your last name?
Yeah, you hit it.
Oh my gosh, I'm normally so bad with names. I'm very proud of myself right now. This is a monumental moment. But I'm here with Ben, who is a director. Ben has directed commercials for Guinness, Wrangler, and Dodge, just to name a few. He's also directed music videos and short films. And most recently, he has directed what I think is your first feature film. Is that correct? His
It
first
is.
feature film called No Tomorrow, which I, thanks to Tara, who invited me, got to see in the theater at the what was the film festival name again?
The Culver City Film Festival?
Culver
Yeah,
City Film Festival. We should both know because we were there.
we should.
At the Culver City Film Festival, and it was so awesome to see on the big screen. Was that your first time seeing it on the big screen as well?
That was the second time in
Okay.
like an actual theater, which I have to say, when you find a festival that has you make a DCP, totally
Ah,
worth it. It
yes,
does look different and
it does.
makes all the world. Yeah.
It's kind of a thing to make, though, a DCP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It was definitely a cost I did not expect to come up. When we got into the Silver State Film Festival, it's like, oh, I need to make a DCP. I've got a brother who's an editor. He can figure this out. And he and I both started doing some research, and it was like, yeah, there's too many ways to mess this up. We're gonna just pay for this. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
How much was it? Do you mind
Yep.
me asking?
So luckily, the guys who run those festivals have, I don't know if they have a company that makes them, but they did them for like half the price of what most of the other ones were.
Oh, wow.
So I think it costs like somewhere between 400 and 500, which most of them cost like 1,000 or more.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And
Which,
Oh, go
took
ahead.
my budget way up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very we will get to that. I do want to know about the budget for this film. And for those of you watching who don't know what a DCP is, I don't remember what it stands for, but do you remember?
It's a digital cinema projection.
Thank you. Yes. So basically, when you get into a film festival, a legit bigger film festival that's going to screen with a legit film projector, they need a DCP because it can't just play a QuickTime file or an MP4 or whatever. And so this is like a special format for those projectors, basically. I had to make one for my short film Zombie Debt, and I went through that whole headache of doing all the research, making all the mistakes, and then finally was able to figure it out, did one, and then on the day of was like, hope it works, because they didn't let short films do the testing, unlike feature films usually will get to go in and have a tech test day. So yeah, it did work, by the way. So
Nice.
so it was fine, and it had surround sound too, which complicated the DCP even more, so it was fun.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird technology that actually I don't know if people know, like makes it feel like you're watching a film, and it's the science behind it.
Oh,
Do you know
interesting.
how what they do, what a DCP is?
I
Like when you break
mean,
it down?
I know that I exported as a DCP, but you can
Okay.
educate me, please.
So if you know like old film reels, they run at 24 frames a second. It's basically a frame that goes through and
Hmm.
each one goes and makes it moving by that style. So what a DCP does, it takes every single frame of your film and creates a JPEG 2000. And then
Oh, so
basically
it's
the
literally.
DCP is a
Ooh.
strung together of each frame as a JPEG 2000 that then matches back to whatever audio source that you have, and it's like watching film. So
Wow. Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing. And probably much higher quality than, you know, any other sort of export.
I think it's that, and then it's also like when you watch film and you're in a theater, it is a different experience because of that. Like the refresh rate on your TV is, I think, like 60, so it's moving faster, and it just doesn't have the same quality and the same feel. So when you're in a theater, it feels like a movie because of that, because it is
Wow.
playing at this like exact thing, and it's not a strung together digital thing. It's actually images going one at a time. So
Right. That's amazing. That's so cool. Well, the more you know, everybody. We need
mhm.
the rainbow. Well, Ben, please tell us about your film No Tomorrow. Can you briefly describe your film and tell us what inspired you to create it? Which I don't know if I
uh,
said already, but just to be clear, everybody, Ben shot this film 100% in quarantine by yourself, pretty much, correct?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. I came up with the idea on a drive between LA and Scottsdale, going back to my parents' house when I decided to not shoot a short film I was going to make. And had already made a time loop movie, but couldn't figure out like what do I make that I can shoot in my parents' house and still is fun and makes sense, but I can't sit around for another month and do nothing.
Mm.
And came up with the idea. So the plot line is a guy who is trying to prove that he's stuck in a time loop. So he's talking first person to camera and showing things off and proves that he's in a way that he's stuck in a time loop, but learns that he's actually shifting realities. So things start changing, and it's little things, and it's not giving anything away. The first thing that changes is the color of his dad's shirt. So I honestly don't think it was a happy accident. The reason that I actually made it was because I got home and my dad was working on the Sunday crossword puzzle. And I always look over his shoulder, and if I know a clue, I tell him.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed pretty quickly that there was three clues missing. And I knew I had the thing that I needed to prove without being cheap, without just like
Yeah.
replaying the exact same shot over and over again. It's like, oh no, I can use this and film it a bunch of times and it's still a messed up crossword puzzle.
Wow.
So I then sat down and outlined it in about an hour. Didn't write a script, just all the scenes that I needed in a notebook, and started filming the next day.
Wow. That's so that was one thing I was wondering after watching it was, how much of this was scripted, how much of this was planned. So it was just sort of bullet points that you went on.
It was. I knew what I needed out of each scene. I knew who was going to be in it. It was mostly me. but I knew the scenes with my dad. I knew the scenes with Jeremy, who is done completely via like FaceTime on the computer. So I had it mapped out. There was one or two scenes that did come later. But as far as the basic story, I knew what I was doing, how I was going to do it. I did script one scene. It's a very short scene with just me, and I hated it. I thought it was terrible, so I deleted it.
Oh no.
And went back into my room and reshot it, just winging it, and was like, oh, that's so much better. So I never tried to write another like line of dialogue again. So
interesting. And have you acted before?
No.
So that's
no.
Maybe
I
that's
never
why.
ever wanted to be in front of. I never wanted to be in front of camera. It's like people would always ask, like, "Oh, don't you want to do both?" It's like, no. I'm on the back side of the camera for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I am very much in that
again,
boat
during
too.
this, during this drive, I was thinking in my head, it's like, okay, it's lockdown. I'm kind of seeing my parents, but I can't even fully rely on them because my dad still had to go back. He's a doctor, so he still had to leave for like 10 days in the month. It's like, well, I can't rely on anybody. I have to do everything. I have to be my main character. I have to film it all. So I decided on like that kind of Chronicle Cloverfield method of first person. Like this will make sense to the story too. And reluctantly sat down and filmed it. Shockingly, I start forgetting that it's me in the movie. I've edited for so long.
Yeah.
That I do forget when people say like, oh, your movie. It's like, oh yeah, the movie I directed. Oh yeah, I was in it too.
You're just so close to it. You don't even see it anymore.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. And just so other people get an even clearer picture, like the film has a very like Groundhog Day vibe where Ben's character is repeating the same day over and over again and vlogging on his phone, basically recording all these things. And there's some really fun, I love the twist of it, like not just being repeating the same day. It's like, oh wait, it's actually reality shifting. And there's some, I don't want to give anything away, but there's some like really cool twists that you come up with that I thought were really unique and interesting. Because, you know, I'm assuming there's no real special effects in this movie. And so it's you really had to find ways to do stuff without special effects, which was interesting.
I almost had to do some sky replacement.
Oh.
Because I did shoot a few scenes and there was all those fires last fall, even in Arizona, and the sky was really orange. And I had a few scenes I really liked him. My dad was great in them, and it was like, well, it's an iPhone. Is sky replacement going to look any good? How's this going to work? So I asked my dad, and he was totally up for it. And we reshot probably 3 or 4 of his scenes.
Oh, wow.
And then I reshot, I think, one more. Like, kind of difficult scene. Dad killed it.
Oh, wow. Uh-oh. Oh, no, we lost Ben for a second. Ben, come back. Uh-oh. We completely lost Ben. Hold, please. Wait, there he is. He's back. He's back. We lost you for a second.
I didn't move. Oh, you lost me? I thought I lost you.
Well, we shifted realities is what happened.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's awesome. Which iPhone did you shoot on, by curiosity?
The 11 Pro.
11 Pro. Nice.
Yeah.
So that was 4K, right?
I shot it all 4K, and I kind of made the decision too. I didn't use like Filmmaker Pro or anything. I thought, no, because I'm just like documenting this, I used just the iPhone app. I didn't use any extra microphones or anything like that. Like, honestly, my sound guy, Chris, how he got it to sound as good as he did, I have no idea.
Wow.
Like, he really killed it.
Wow. So it's just the iPhone mic. That's impressive, because it sounded really, really good, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Hold on to that audio mixer.
Yep.
You said, I just want to go back to another thing you said, that you basically just plotted it out, and I'm curious if you then started editing as you went as well, and that maybe gave you the freedom to make changes and reshoot stuff and rearrange.
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest benefit I had, was filming it on my own and editing it on my own. Was if I shot something, I immediately would sit down, bring it in, splice it in, see how it was working. And because my brother's an editor, and I thought, oh, I'll build him a loose edit and then I'll send him everything and he can recut it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just too busy. Shockingly, during lockdown, everybody was recutting stuff in the commercial world. So
Yeah.
I ended up editing it all myself, and it was really helpful to just be able to I could do reshoots at any point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I really don't like this, or I like part of this, but I need to do this as well. So I would just go back outside or hike back up the hill or whatever and just redo it and go back in, cut it in. It's like, yeah, this works.
Nice.
So
Wow.
the hardest thing was probably putting together the Zoom at the very end, which was like an added ending. So
Oh yeah, I remember Tara
yeah,
reaching out to people to have them,
yeah,
be in the Zoom thing. Wow.
yeah. Because I came up with that ending, but then trying to get everybody scheduled for the same day to do a Zoom where I could just record it all, that fell apart hours before I was supposed to do it, and I got
Oh
really
wow.
frustrated. So that's when I came up with the other ending, which we won't talk about, like, but I came up with it in my head, or and just cut it together and said, oh, I'm not going to do the Zoom anymore. And then of course Tara was like, and Jeremy both were like, but we now have a bunch of people that are sending you recordings of the Zoom. I was like, all right, fine, I'll just build it in post. So yeah,
Nice. There you go. If you ever need anything, Tara's got your back. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, right.
Well, you mentioned the Jeremy character, and I
Hmm.
really loved him. He was fantastic, by the way. Is he just an actor friend of yours?
He's a really good friend of mine. He's not really an actor. He does mostly voiceover.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Wow.
he's helped me out on a bunch of stuff. Like, he's one of those jack of all trades. It's like, oh, hey, Jeremy, I need you to do this. I need you to help me design a set.
Mm.
Or I need somebody to help me record sound and run a second camera and also feed people and also help me do post sound. And, he's one of those. Like, he can always figure whatever it is out. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Hmm.
Sounds like a keeper.
Yes. But he
um.
lives in Cleveland, so
Oh, bummer. Bummer.
and he was the one I was going to go and shoot the other short film. We were going to shoot it in Cleveland. So,
Oh, are you still gonna
yeah.
do it?
We're still going to try. I took the money that I had been raising from that to actually finish this movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I kind of told people, I like sent out to the people who had given the money for it. I was like, well, I mean, do you mind if I finish this movie I made during lockdown? Because I wasn't going to actually go through the whole process. I just was doing it for the fun of it and was going to send it out to friends. And
Mm.
it was actually a work friend and a guy who I'd never met that he works with who watched it early on. And we're like, dude, you have to finish this. This is great.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And then Tara kind of watched it and was like, yeah, we have to finish this. So,
Yeah, I will
yeah.
say, I think it could have it's I don't really know the percentage of time that's just you on camera. I'm gonna guess it's like around 70 to 80% of the time. And it could have really dragged, and I never felt like it dragged. It always kept me on the edge of my seat, and it was super interesting. So bravo for that. That's quite a feat, considering it's just one character basically for the whole time. But the film, the Jeremy character, for those who haven't seen the film, is basically the main character's friend that he keeps calling and asking. He's a professor in
He develops into one. I think as the
okay.
movie goes on, he gets more and more
Oh,
like down that line of like, oh yes, this is the stuff that I know. And I thought that was kind of a funny little joke that it's like the deeper I go, the more his character knows about it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So he's like the person that the main character goes to get advice and try to figure out what's going on with time and reality. And the whole film is really heavy with this theme. And I was wondering, like, what specifically drew you to that subject? Was it just that, hey, this might be an easy thing to shoot, or is this a subject that you're passionate about?
it's what I'm really passionate about.
Oh.
I definitely like all those tirades, even Jeremy's answers for the most part. I'm like, okay, you need to hit this point, you need to hit this point.
Oh,
It
interesting.
is a lot. It is a lot of things, and the way I guess I see the world.
Mm.
Very much of it is my outlook and the ideas that I have on the universe, existence, and that sort of thing.
Oh,
So
wow. Well, that's
yeah,
awesome.
I wanted people to like that watch it to think beyond. And even if they disagree with my ideas, it's like, come up with your own.
Yeah.
Like, don't think like, oh, just the world that I see in front of me, and the minutes click away on the clock, and one day I'm going to die, and I don't know what happens before or after or anything like that. It's like I wanted people to stretch a little bit and imagine bigger. Because when you think about the universe on both like a macro scale like that, even beyond like just the universe and if there's multiverses, but also on a micro level, like an atom is so small compared to what we are. It's like, I mean, that's its own almost universe in and of itself. So
right.
I wanted to get people like
thinking about that. So what you're telling us is that you're basically a giant nerd, right?
Yes, without a doubt.
That's okay.
I mean, I explained DCPs to you, so
yeah. Hey, we're film nerds here, so we understand. Well, we already kind of talked about this a little bit, but why did you decide to shoot on the iPhone, and what challenges and benefits did you find through doing so?
Honestly, before this idea, I would have never shot something like this on an iPhone. Just working in like the commercial world, I'm always was one of those people that was like, no, I know how to do this with like a real crew. I know how to do this right, so that's like nobody's going to look at it and question like, oh, did they have money? Did they not have money? My thing before has always been like, make it look the best on screen as possible with art department and the best, it doesn't even have to be camera, lens you can put in front of the camera. And when I came up with the idea, it was like, no, my iPhone's perfect for this, actually, because I could have shot on my DSLR or something like that and made the same movie, but I didn't want to. It's like, no, the iPhone's exactly what I need. I won't have to really mess with too much because I want that look. I want it when it messes up, when it glitches, when it's shifting focus or color or whatever. It's like, I want those little things because this is supposed to be me walking around with an iPhone.
Right.
And to be honest, when this phone came out, it did change the way I looked at phones and the way they film. Like, I really feel like when Apple came out with like the 3-camera Pro one, it's changed the game, and I'm looking for it. I'm waiting till next year. I think I'm gonna wait till the 14 to get another one, but I'm really curious to see even what the steps are with that and what I might consider shooting with that next time.
Yeah, the cinema mode is pretty cool looking. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I have the same phone, and I have started using it, when I go to film festivals and I want to vlog or I want to shoot B-roll of that. I just use my phone. In fact, I was showing Ben before we started rolling. He noticed it in my background, but I have this cool small rig camera case that I just recently invested in, and it's amazing. I just went to a film festival a couple months ago, and I was blown away by the footage. Also, the stabilization in the phone is just nuts. It's crazy. I got shots from a car that look like a dolly. It's crazy.
You can also buy, like, for a phone like this, you can buy a little Osmo little gimbal rig that works great for $100 or $200, and it's like you can replace a dolly. I mean, anything like that.
Yeah. I think Natalie and Tara have one, don't they?
I have one, and honestly, the only time I used it was the shots in the room. I used it as a tripod because I didn't have a tripod for my phone.
Oh.
Other than that, I did everything on purpose, handheld. Even when I was out, like, in the woods or, by the beach or whatever, I didn't bring it because I specifically wanted, it's like, no, I want a shot where I am setting this up in nature. So, like, putting it on rocks, because when I shot a couple of the scenes like by the beach, my friend was there and she asked me like, oh, do you want me to shoot that for you? It's like, no, that takes away from what I've done on the rest of the movie. So I'm like sitting there with a bunch of rocks piled up and kind of look, I'm like, well, I'm gonna stand roughly there, all right, hit record and go over and shoot and then come back and look at it. It's like, yeah, I think that works, or no, okay, I need to shift it a little bit this way. And so
yeah,
it was definitely a do-it-yourself sort of job.
Totally. Well, that's awesome. Well, I mean, that you keep kind of already hitting the questions before I get to them, Ben. I mean, geez. But my next question is
I'm
like,
sorry.
that's fine. My next question is, what sort of challenges did you face during like pre-production or production, and how you overcame them? And I'm also kind of curious, we already talked about the DCP, but if there were challenges you hit in post-production, because I have had issues with Premiere and iPhone footage not playing nice before. So I'm curious if you had any of those issues.
So honestly, production was I did pause for a little bit. I paused for about 2 months. I had probably 75% of the film shot in the month of September. And then I was going back. I was at my parents' in Arizona, but I was going back to Napa, where I'd spent a lot of my early part of the quarantine. And couldn't really film while I was there because I was doing some other stuff, some work and things. And then in November, when I came home, found out I thought maybe my dog had gotten cancer again. So totally didn't think about it. He went back in for surgery. And so like November and December were all about that. And then was going back to Napa again to finish off the last bit of work that I needed to do in January, and thought, okay, well, the last scenes I have, I actually can get there. Like I had tossed around a bunch of ideas on where I could get these things. It's like, well, if I get those there, I'll have some time. Like I can edit it. I'll cut it down into a short film. Because that was the other thing. My brother kept watching cuts and he's like, dude, you got to cut this down. You got to cut this into a short. It's like, okay, I'll keep trying to do that, but I don't know how to because I need all these scenes.
Yeah.
And when I sat down,
boy, did you prove him wrong. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, when I sat down in January and started really cutting it together and piecing the things, I decided, I was like, I'm just going to make it whatever length it needs to be. I don't care. Like, I don't really think this is going to go anywhere. I'm going to show it to friends. It's just going to be probably a 75-minute long thing that I share with people. And that's kind of what it was. It was like, I think the first cut was like 73 minutes. And again, like I said, I wasn't going to finish it, and then got encouraged to. So it was about redoing the ending, reshooting a few scenes. Finding a colorist became an issue. All the colorists I kept contacting, and this is like April, they're like, oh yeah, I can totally do that for you in like the budget you have in September. I was like, that's like months away. I got really lucky finding Chris, my sound guy. Found him through a sound producer I'd worked with before, who was amazing. I did so kind of a strange, not a great problem to have in post is I was getting ready to do my color prep, and I was waiting for last couple notes to come in. This was, I guess, a problem too, is I kept sending it out to people for notes, and they kept sending back, no, it's great. I wouldn't change anything. It's like, I don't think anybody gets what notes means. I need something back. Yeah. And my brother still hadn't watched it. He still hadn't watched it all the way through. He hadn't watched it since like November. And he watches it the weekend I'm prepping it for color and for sound.
Oh, no.
And it's Saturday afternoon, and he calls me and he says, you're not going to like me. I was like, are you serious? What? He's like, you need such and such scene to bridge this gap. And I said, yeah, you're right. But if you remember, in my outline, that was a scene you and I were supposed to do.
Oh.
He's like, yeah, but this is a solution you can do without me. You just need Dad to go film. I was like, really? So luckily, my dad was working all this stuff, if you remember from the movie, that's in the hospital, and then like the house that's in that he visits. My dad shot all that, and then I did the voiceover over top.
Oh, wow.
So that is like the only footage that's in the movie that I didn't shoot.
Oh, interesting.
Other than the Zoom, yeah.
Yeah.
And it pieced together this little gap, and that's what took it from, I think, 80 minutes to 83 was that section.
Wow.
But it was, when I rewatched, it was like, yeah, no, this is what it needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just needed that little bit of a thing. And then as I was exporting for color and sound, my hard drive died.
No. Did you?
Yes.
Oh, you had it backed up though, right?
I had it backed up. I didn't have the project backed up.
No, Ben, no.
So
oh, no.
my hard drive wasn't totally dead. I had to go in and pull out files like 5 at a time.
Oh, I've had to
Like
do that, like
footage,
with the
projects.
recovery program.
It
Yes.
wasn't even a
Oh.
recovery program. I don't know what it was doing, but I called like one of the people. I'm like, "Can I bring this in?" The guy's like, "You need to get whatever you can off of it now, because the more you run it, like unplug it and plug it back in, the more it's gonna die."
Oh
I
my
thought,
God.
"Oh shoot!" So I ordered a. I have now a solid state only hard drive buyer. Cost me a lot more, but
Mm-hmm.
doesn't run into these issues as much. So yeah, I was freaking out. I was like, I may have to re-edit this whole thing, and
Oh my
don't know
God.
how I'm gonna do that. Like I had exports of it that I could watch, but it was like, this is gonna take forever. But luckily, got the project file off first, and
Mm.
then pulled everything else just in case, because I was like, I cannot have just one drive with this on it while I'm waiting for this other hard drive to get delivered. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Pika Lee says, my nightmare. Dead drive. Yes, for sure. I had this happen to me with a batch of 13 FIY movies, which was like months of work, and it was a brand new hard drive, and it died, and I had to we had to pay for a recovery program and get it all off. And so now my tip for people is always buy hard drives in pairs and use one as a backup, and just constantly when you're done working, just use I use forklift, and I just back everything up to that other drive, because it's a nightmare when you always think it's not gonna happen to me, you know.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, this is the third time. I've actually lost one complete project because
Oh my God.
way back when we shot on the very first Red, like one of the first, it was I think number 17 Red, and I shot a short
Whoa.
back in like 2006.
I don't mean to
maybe
brag,
2007.
but I shot on. Just kidding.
Just so happened I met a DP through a guy who just happened to have like one of the brand new Reds, and we didn't run into any issues with it out in the desert. Like it was the only one that never overheated. But during the editing process,
In the desert too. Oh my gosh.
But our main drives died, and then I called the DP, who like our agreement was like he would have the backups, and he's like, they're not loading. It's like, are you kidding me? So yeah, lost a whole short film.
Ugh.
So yeah, it is terrifying. So I actually try to do 3 hard drives.
Oh yeah, 3 is good.
And then if you can, I mean, project files are small.
Yeah.
Email them to somebody. Like, it's a small thing.
I have just a Dropbox folder synced that I'll just drag the project file on. Yeah, so at least you have the. I'm not super good about it though. I'm not gonna lie. I need to be better. But so as you already mentioned, your parents are in the film. So I was wondering, like, was that a challenge directing them? Did having a close relationship with them help direct them in this scenario? Because I'm assuming that they're non-actors.
They are not actors. My mom definitely didn't want to be in the movie. That's kind of why you see, like, I kind of shy away, because she's like, and it's funny, I even use that, like, as a funny little joke in the movie. But my dad, he just kind of went with it. And I didn't want him to be anybody but himself. So I just told him, I just kind of walked him through. It's like, hey, we're going to work on the crossword, and I just need you to, notice that the clues are missing and just have fun with it. And then the other scenes, I didn't really give him a direction of where we were going. I would just keep the conversation going. I would bring up a topic, and I would just get his natural reaction to it. Like, I would lead him, knowing my dad pretty well. It's like, okay, I know he's going to get into this if I bring up this sort of thing, or he's going to come at me with, he loves like Twilight Zone references or old music, things like that. I know he's going to throw them at me if I wait long enough and I ask the right questions. So I was doing things like that. It was like I was kind of playing into him. And the one scene that he and I do in the car is the only time I use 2 cameras at the same time. I held his phone and my phone like this and was recording, and it's the only scene that you cut back and forth between 2 people with 2 cameras, like, other than like
you were just holding them like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, I think I had one like this and one like this, and it was just
wow.
So
that is so funny. Well, they're great. They feel authentic and real. So It totally works for sure. Um, you know, there's well, I don't know if I do want to ask this question because again, I don't want to spoil anything. So maybe I won't ask this
Okay.
one. I'll ask it to you in private. Um,
Okay.
but what I will ask is, you know, how did you balance shooting this film during COVID? Like, were there special circumstances that you had to, I mean, obviously the entire film is special circumstances, but were there special circumstances you had to adapt to? Like going into the hospital, did you have to get special permission for that?
Well, I just had my dad do it. Like
Oh,
he
right.
filmed it for me.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
right. I thought you just meant the house
Um,
part, but now I see what you mean.
yeah, the hospital too. So everything that was there, and then I did the voiceover and I cut the stuff in my car to make it seem like I had just done it first person.
Oh, wow.
Um, but the other thing I really, and I had a festival director kind of give me kudos for this, which made me feel really good. Was I really wanted to, and this was middle of like real lockdown stuff, was I didn't want there to be too many masks. I didn't
Oh,
want to not show that they were there or that I
right.
had one or whatever, but I didn't want a movie of me without being able to see my face and me talking, because it's like it's already too much of my face. I was worried, and just felt like, as you're shifting through realities and things like that, even if there is a pandemic in all of them, that the rules might be different, the timing might be different,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't want it to be so locked into people feeling like they were trapped in like that mask world again. Like I wanted it more to be the, oh my god, I just have the same thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit of a challenge to like get away and pick places that I wasn't going to run into people, so I didn't have to like have it with me or have it on while I was filming.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you definitely chose good locations, and I think it's relatable for, you know, people had their own little COVID bubbles, so it makes sense
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And I just want to throw it out there, everybody who's watching, if you have any questions for Ben, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. We're happy to answer your questions. Um,
Yeah.
but Ben, how many days did it take you to shoot? I Do you even know the answer to that question?
I don't. I did most of it, like I said, like 75% of it in September, and then did some pickup stuff. I guess I did that Silver Lake scene. That was like October. That was just a one day. I was out doing a light study for a friend, a
Mm.
producer friend. And then a few days in January. But then, I mean, editing took that whole time, extra time. Like, really, editing was a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, I'm
Um,
sure.
yeah. And I
Wow.
feel like I got a good rhythm to it, which I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sure was going to happen. I was really worried about that. But when I finished the rough cut in the end of January, I leaned back. I was sitting in the office. My friend, they've got a construction business up there, and it was pretty much just me, him, and his dad that were going into this office every day because everybody else is still working from home. And I kind of leaned back, and I'm in this room with like 5 cubicles, but nobody else in there but me, and my buddy's like across the hall, and his dad had already left, and it's like, I think I'm done. He's like, what? I was like, I think I finished a rough cut of my movie, and I think it's pretty good. He's like, well, let's have a drink then. He pulls out a bottle of whiskey, and we sat there and just kind of chatted about it,
Oh,
and
that's
like
awesome.
just that feeling of like, I actually made something. Like it,
Yeah.
this whole lockdown wasn't a waste.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it was that feeling. I think when I went into it, it's like I just wanted to be doing something and feel like I was doing anything, because there was no work for me. Like the only things I was doing was helping friends out, like some other friends in Napa. I was helping them make some cooking shows so that their wine label didn't go under, like
Mm-hmm.
during it all. But I wasn't. I mean, I get great wine for helping them out with it, which is a huge thing. But I wasn't working, and I wasn't. There was so many things I had planned on doing before COVID, and those all went away. That it's like, what momentum am I going to have coming out of this, or am I going to be like way behind where I was?
Right.
So just
Yeah.
to have that feeling was like, it was huge.
Yeah.
And along the way, I guess one person I do want to thank, because my one friend Sharon, she started watching clips from the beginning. She was the one who
Ooh.
kept telling me, like, when I would
She's in
send
the
her a clip of
chat,
me and my,
by the way. She's
yeah,
watching.
okay. When I would send her a clip of like me and my dad, she's like, "Your dad's a really good actor." I'm like, "I know, right? I'm kind of surprised by this." She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"You're pretty good too," which I was a little worried about. I was like, I was worried about it. So
Oh,
yeah, I
that's
mean, she
awesome.
definitely early on was kind of like, "No, no, this is cool. Like, I like what you're doing." So it was
Mm-hmm.
like that early encouragement, and then in the end, when Tara was like, "I'm gonna help you finish this," it's like, because you can't walk away from it. So yeah, between the two of them, it's like, okay, I have a movie thanks to them.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. That's so
yeah.
cool. Well, congratulations. It's quite a triumph to make a feature film like that. That's amazing. Speaking of Tara, she has a question for you in the chat. She says,
Uh-oh.
"What advice would you give directors who are just getting started? Is film school the best place to start?"
Ooh.
I know, the film school question. Always
It's
a tricky
tough.
one. Hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my path really quick. So I was a pre-med student when I started college. We didn't have a film program, but I did take like an elective class. It was a film history class, and it totally changed my life. I stopped going to biology and chemistry and would go to the lab. Still got A's in those classes, but like was nope, shifting out of this. I got to figure out how to do something in this. And got out of college really quick because they didn't have a film program, but I took all these film history classes, which was really cool and really good for me, I think. And then back then, this was 2005, I couldn't get a master's in film because none of the schools that had master's programs would accept anybody that didn't have a film undergrad.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I
Yeah.
couldn't do that, and I didn't want to go get a second undergrad because it's like, well, I'm just going to be spending money on an undergrad degree to then go get a master's. So, and I'm going to have to retake all these history classes that I've already done. It just seemed like, no, I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather just do it. So I went to the LA Film School because at the time it was a 1 year, just like hands on, almost like a vocational program. It's like, learn how to shoot on film, learn how to shoot on the new HD camera, learn how to cut on Avid, learn how to sit in a sound mix, learn how to record sound. Like you pick the things that you want to do. And I didn't really know. I had an idea. I was like, I think I want to be a director, but maybe I want to be a cinematographer. Maybe I want to be an editor. So those are the classes I took
Mm-hmm.
and what I focused on, and did find that through the process, it was like, no, directing is my thing because if you ask me at any point in the process what my favorite thing is, it's probably whatever I'm doing right then. It's like pre-production, you're concepting, like you're imagining the sky is the limit,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to come up with all sorts of things. You're designing things, you're coming up with ideas for shots, and then when you're on set, you're bringing all that to life. You're seeing it, and you're working with the actors, and you get to find those nuances. And if you get the right crew, you're finding people that are taking your idea and taking it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then when you get into the edit and post, like you're essentially telling the story for the third time, and it's like you're watching it come together and seeing it what works and solving problems that you never expected. And then there's always that great moment when you're sitting in your final mix, the film's colored and you're looking at it on this like big screen, and you kind of hit that end and it's like, oh my gosh, that's it, it's done. It's like
Yeah.
I have something that
Mm-hmm.
people can see. um but I did consider like later on, after PAing for a bunch of years, about going back to school because I think 7 or 8 years later I could get into a master's program, and I thought about it. I did consider like going back only so that I was forced to shoot again. That's the one good thing about being in school, is you have to shoot because
Mm-hmm.
they're telling you like you're getting a grade on it, and you do get you know incentives to do it. Like people are more likely to give a student free stuff to go shoot or let them use their location. Or I mean, there's usually, most festivals, especially the big ones, have student
Sections.
categories.
Mm-hmm.
And but I will say both sides. It really depends, I think, what you want to do. Then my brother, who's an editor, he never graduated college, moved to Alaska of all places, and started working for the local TV station,
Wow.
cutting local, shooting and editing local TV spots, and doing extra stuff for like the news broadcast people. Like the him and the sports guy became really good friends. And then then when he moved to LA and he PA'd for me for a little while because I worked in production. But I told him, I was like, if you just go get a job at a post house as an assistant editor, like by the time you're 30, you'll be an editor. And sure enough, he got hired as an editor, I think the year he turned 30, and moved to New York and is now like, so I think it depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to be a director and maybe a cinematographer or a producer, then yeah, going to film school I think is a good idea. But if you want to be, in sound or editing or something of that nature, it's like you're almost better off going, because you're going to start at the bottom no matter what.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you can move up and you can get there, I think, sooner. And you're not learning the bad things that you might learn in school, because a lot of what happens, I think, in what I've learned from my brother in post especially, is like, there is a way you set up the project, there is a way you ingest the footage that is the right way to do it, and it's the most efficient, and you're learning those right from the get-go. You're not having to unlearn things. And I do find that in those ones too, like, you'll end up underneath somebody that wants to help you learn. Like, my brother still works, even though he's an editor, he works with one of his mentors who will watch his edits, and they'll sit there and they'll go back and forth and toss around ideas. The guy will even call him in to come in and give him ideas and work on things. So I think it depends person to person, but I do think as a director, if you want to be forced to make something, then yeah, going to film school is probably not a bad idea, at least for a few years. And I do think there's something to learning the history of film and knowing where stuff comes from, because the one thing I feel like I got out of my 1 year was, there is the formula, shooting the master, getting the coverage, and why you do that. And when you know how to do that and you're really good at it, then you know when to break the rules and why you're breaking the rules.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't, you can't watch Scorsese or somebody like that and be like, well, they do this. It's like, they know why they're doing it. Yeah. This is a choice that is adding to the story. So until you know why that is, like, probably don't do it. Totally. Learn this way first and then break the rules. So
yeah, I feel like, going to film school is a good idea if you take advantage of it, like, so I went to a film school where we started shooting within 4 months. We started shooting video. Wow. Yeah, which is unusual, because most of them, like you said, you spend a couple years learning film theory and history and whatnot before you actually shoot anything. But the cool part about that is there were always people shooting. And so even if I didn't have a shoot, I could help out on someone else's shoot. And what I learned through helping out on other people's shoots was so much more than what I learned sometimes in the classroom, like being on the set with maybe class members who are higher up than me, higher, like older than me, and helping out and learning from them. That was like a tremendous experience. So if you do go to film school, like, make sure you take advantage of it and like volunteer on other people's shoots. And because a thing that I do find sometimes is some people will go to film school, but they still won't necessarily know how to be on a set, and they don't necessarily know set operations or how it's run or anything like that. And so the more you can do that, I think the better, whether it's at film school or you just move to LA and you look online and look for people who are shooting stuff and looking for help, Yeah.
I'm going to turn on a light really quick, but I do want to jump on a point with that.
It was kind of fitting considering your film.
Yeah, was it? I don't have much light in my room, which is kind of funny. So I just pointed like the only one I have in here. I would also recommend anybody who wants to do any job on set to PA for at least 6 months, but more like a year. And I did make that choice. When I got out of school, I did get introduced to a commercial producer, and that's how I ended up in commercials. But he, we sat and we had a coffee and we talked for a couple hours, and I told him about how I'd been editing and I knew how to work in Avid, and how what I really wanted to do was be a director, and he gave me the option. He's like, you know, both paths can get there. You tell me which way you want to go, either a PA or you want to be at a post house. He's like, I can probably get you either on my next shoot or I can get you a job at a post house.
Wow.
And I thought, editing is something I can always kind of do on my own at home. Like I can always sit down and cut a scene together and practice that way, but I'm not going to know how a real set is run unless I'm on a real set.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So that was the way I went. And actually the first job I did with him was it was a directing duo, but one of the brothers is he's a cinematographer, and he's actually shot a lot of stuff for David Fincher. They're the Cronenwiths, and their dad was the DP of Blade Runner. And
wow.
Yeah, we just so happened, I got lucky. Like we were out in Inyokern shooting this when AT&T merged with Singular Wireless. They did these series of spots where it was like, you know, the bars, and then it would turn into the AT&T world. We were shooting these fighter jets. Wow. Out in Inyokern. But the one night we were down in the hotel bar, and it was me and one of the other PAs, and I think both of us, it was like our first or second jobs, and Jeff Cronenwith and his brother Tim and their producer were sitting there, and they sat with us and were chatting with us, and they kind of told us like, no, our dad told us we couldn't start in the industry without PAing for at least a year. Like wow. He forced us to work as PAs for a year, so we knew what it was like to be at the bottom, what it was like to take out trash or clean things up or do lockup or whatever, so that you know how to treat your crews. And he's like, and you're gonna run into directors that don't know that, and it's not going to be as pleasant of a situation as our jobs. And they were right, because they were really humble and, I mean, amazing. Jeff, I think, is one of the best like DPs probably in the world. I mean, if you go and look up some of the things he's done, it's shocking. Like he's
wow.
almost on par probably with like Deakins in some ways. So
wow,
and
that's awesome.
I mean, their dad too, doing Blade Runner, and hearing stories about, you know, shooting on film and being able to bake in a look that can't be changed. Like
wow.
Making that look that it's like, no matter what, the film is going to look like this. And there was tricks you could do when you shot it and how you processed it. It was really fascinating to like learn stuff like that too.
I bet. Yeah. And I mean, the networking opportunities too, you know, being able to be on set and start connecting with people. That's the other thing I was going to say about film school is like, it can be a tremendous networking opportunity for you. Ironically, I do not really stay in touch with the people that I went to film school with, though, even though I'm saying that. Yeah, like I think I have one person that I went to film school with that I still talk to. So there's other networking opportunities out there too, but it can also be in your favor for sure.
Yeah, like I think, and I don't know for this for sure, but like a friend of mine, she directs half the episodes for the show Street Foods on Netflix.
Oh, cool.
And I want to say she got that because she, through somebody she went to school with, I'm almost positive this is how it worked, got her a job as a story editor on, it was one of the other cooking shows. It's like a really famous one, but it's the same company that makes Street Food.
Okay.
And she was a story editor, and they said, hey, we're starting this like 30-minute thing instead. Would you want to be one of the directors? And it's like her and this other girl, they do all the episodes. And I was like,
wow.
I mean, but from somebody she knew in school, I'm almost positive that's what it was. And then like got one job, but then got her basically a show on Netflix.
That's so cool. Yeah. So I guess at the end of the day, whether you go to film school or not, just do the thing that you want to do and connect with other people that you can do the thing for.
I would also say if you go to film school or even just outside, it is don't look at other directors as your competition.
Oh, nice tip. That's a good one. Yeah.
Because I think what people don't realize is that you can learn a lot from other directors, whether you're working with them, whether you're not. And it's something that like the greats did and do. I mean, Wolf of Wall Street, I remember watching an interview where I want to say it was Jonah Hill was talking about a scene where for
Mm.
like 2 days Spielberg came over and basically he was getting directed by Spielberg and Scorsese at the same time.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's like these are, people they don't have like that mindset of like, oh well, they're going to steal my glory or whatever, because you're going to make the movies you're going to make and they're going to make theirs, and if they can learn something from you or you can learn something from them to make it better, you're still not really ever going to be in competition as long as you are making things that are right for you and that
Yeah.
get you excited. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah. The interesting thing about being a director is you don't often see other directors doing their work or work with other directors, but it can be when I just started, I'm a full-time director for LinkedIn Learning, and I started my job and I got the opportunity to shadow all the different directors and see their different style, and it was like so interesting to see everyone's different style and like take little pieces from this person and that person and be like, oh, I like what this person does and I like what
Mm-hmm.
that person does, but I'm going to change it slightly. So it's a great learning experience. It's really fun. I find
Yeah.
most of the time other directors love just nerding out about that stuff too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it happens at film festivals. That's probably the best part about
Yeah,
going to film
yeah,
festivals
film
is like
festivals.
those like 3 and 4 a.m. conversations sitting in somebody's hotel room and you're just totally nerding out about
Mm-hmm.
either their film or
DCPs
something
or
else.
no, just
Yeah,
kidding.
whatever you're watching. Yeah, like anything.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's actually it's pushed me like a project I want to do one day is I want to do a compilation film. I want to do something where it's like 5 or 6 directors and we each do our part and it all fits together into one movie. But
Ooh,
I
how
want everybody,
interesting.
it follows kind of a similar plot line, but there's a way for each person to bring theirs to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that would
and
be
it's
interesting.
something that I tossed around with a few directors. I mean, years ago when I was in the Shoot New Director Showcase in New York, like a group of us really clicked and we talked about it. And that's how my friend who does street foods, like she was one of them. And she and I are the only two who have really stayed close in contact. But
Mm.
it was really exciting to like sit there with like a group of other directors and just talk about that stuff and get excited about like, oh, I loved like in your thing, like when you did this, like how did you pull that off and why did you do that? And
Yeah.
it's the best way to learn is from other people who are making the mistakes and or finding the happy accidents too. And it's like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
never would have thought to do that. That's such a cool idea. But
Yeah.
you're usually going to do it your own way anyways. So
Yeah, totally. I
yeah.
mean, like you can love someone's style, but I think eventually you'll develop your own kind of thing. And
Hmm.
well, really quickly, because we did mention it earlier, I do want to know what was your budget for this film? Because I'm very curious.
Uh,
Or do
I
you
think
know?
if I don't know for sure.
Okay.
It was probably with no, we won't include festival submissions and stuff like that.
Okay.
Um,
Production
but
budget.
production budget was probably like $2,500.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah,
That's not bad
and
for
that
a
was
feature film. That has to be one of the cheapest feature films ever shot, ever
yeah,
made.
yeah. So and that was mostly towards post. I mean, it was
Mm.
gas. The 500 is like gas, and then the 2,000 was like I wanted because I had this money that I was making for this short film. Like I was like, well, no, I want to pay the people that are going to do post on this with me because
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. It's not me asking a small favor.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
and then I've spent way more than that on festivals, missions, and going to festivals and the DCP and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's where it gets
So
you.
I would definitely say whatever you think your budget is, if you want to do the festival, anything like, oh, raise extra because
Yeah.
it is
Make
not,
sure you
but it is
account for
so
it.
worth it. It is
Hmm.
so worth it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that should be the main. You want to take it to festivals for
mhm.
sure. Ooh, so Sharn says, if you had an unlimited budget, what would be your dream project?
Oh man.
That kind of scares me when you have the unlimited. Then you venture into the George Lucas territory of maybe it was better when you had restrictions.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's tough. I mean, if I could have any IP
Mm.
and do that, there was this crazy idea that my brother Alex and a couple of friends and I had about a Zelda trilogy based around the
Ooh.
story of Ocarina of Time.
Ooh,
That
wow.
we had come up with this little like fan film that we were gonna make, and never did. But
I kind of can't believe that that hasn't been a thing already.
well, Nintendo won't. I actually was
Oh.
just reading an article. Netflix was going to make a Zelda show back, I think, in like 2016,
Oh,
and then
wow.
somebody at Netflix leaked it, and Nintendo killed it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, which kind of made me happy because now it's like, well, maybe I can convince Nintendo because this is still a good idea.
Let me
Um,
sit down and talk to you about reality shifting Nintendo, and then we'll get to the.
yes.
That's how you'll.
Well, okay. So Tara and I have this like notes thing with all these ideas, and it's funny because you're asking me this, and there was one idea in there that I didn't remember that we came up with, or maybe it was probably my
Ooh.
weird idea that I spun off on, and it's this like action movie that again falls into this reality thing, but it's probably on the level of like what a Christopher Nolan type movie would need to be. So yeah, that would probably be one I would want, just because it would take a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a big action thing. So
Well, that'd be
I
cool.
don't know.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to make, I don't think is going to cost that much. It'll cost a lot more, but
Mm.
yeah.
Well, yeah, that leads great into my final question for you. Do you have any upcoming projects?
So I think short wise, I we're in post on this little dark comedy scene. We just wanted to make something, so it was a thing I had shot years ago and never done anything with. So we redid it. We're finishing that up to send out to festivals, and then I'm working on two other things. I'm trying to use No Tomorrow to kind of jump off with the sci-fi thing. I have
Mm-hmm.
a sci-fi script that I've had written for a while now that I've been redoing the pitch deck, and it's similar but different because it is mainly based around like one or two characters. So I feel like it is kind of a natural progression, but it does, it needs a set build. I want to do it all on a stage. I do have these crazy ideas. I'm now thinking like I should make two films. I should make a regular film, and then I should make also a VR film because one of the
Ooh.
characters is an AI unit.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, I've got all these ideas. That's the thing I'm hoping, um, directing wise, to jump off with next. If and I'm trying any way that I can figure out with how to use No Tomorrow as like a springboard for that.
Yeah.
And then the other one, it's a really exciting thing that I'm working on with a producing friend of mine. It's a World War II story. We're pitching
Ooh.
as a limited series. Uh, we'll see if I get to direct anything on that. It's kind of another one of those big things. It's in the vein of Band of Brothers, but it's about these Army and Navy nurses in the Philippines in World War II that I didn't realize that after Pearl Harbor, the Philippines got bombed like
Oh.
hours after
Oh,
and
wow.
then invaded. So this is the story of the first, enlisted women to be in combat.
Mm.
And there, I don't know if some people may have heard of like, the what was it, the March of Bataan, I believe, or
Oh,
the
yeah,
Death
yeah.
March. So it's part of that. These are the nurses that were like, they were with those guys, and then they got buried under this. There was this fort, called Corregidor, like underneath a mountain on one of the islands, and they were trapped there for months until they
Oh,
had to
wow.
surrender to the Japanese, and then they were the first enlisted POWs, female
Wow.
POWs in U.S. history, and they were in POW camps in Manila for 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a crazy story, and I feel like, um, it's going to make a great limited series. It really is. And I think even though, we're in the pitch process, we've gotten the nicest no's I've ever heard of.
Mm.
Like our first one was to Playtone because it's like, well, they did Band of Brothers and they're working on another one. I can't remember what it's called. It's about the Air Force. And they wrote back like their no was like, if our current one didn't have such a POW centric story, we would be all over this. But
Oh,
we know you're going to get this made, so we're excited to see where you guys go with it.
yeah.
So like we've gotten encouraging things like that. We do have a couple people that are interested, but we have to move a little bit further along in the development process. But
Mm.
that's the other thing that I'm working on that I'm really excited about. So
Well, wow, that all sounds amazing. Well, Ben, if people wanted to follow you or
hmm
see more of your work, where can they find you? I did put a link to your website in the
okay,
description of the video, but
yep.
do you have social medias that you?
I'm kind of on Instagram.
Okay.
You can find me there, Ben underscore Tedesco. That's my directing one.
There might be a link to that in the
I'm not
description too. Maybe.
okay. I'm not on Facebook.
Good for you. Good for
Yeah,
you.
I know. But if here's the thing though, if you ever can't get a hold of me on, and you want to find me on Instagram and can't get a hold of me on mine, if you I also do some drawing, some like doodles called Raccoon Plus Fox, but Tara
Oh,
runs that one. So
so
if
just
she
message
gets the
that.
message,
Yeah.
she'll tell me,
I was just
or
gonna
she'll
say, just
forward it and
message
say like,
Tara.
when it comes to social media, that's kind of the way to go because I'm not always on there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I just, for me, it takes away from so many other things I want to do. I can get wrapped up in it. And it's like, nope. I just want to do my thing, which
Yeah.
I want to sit and write, or I want to go shoot something or something. So yeah,
Yeah. That is
but
definitely the existential crisis I'm always struggling with.
but I've gotten better of it thanks to my film because every film when I started going to festivals, they're like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, hey, let's exchange numbers. They're like, no, we'll just follow each other on Instagram. It's like,
Yep.
I don't, I had to go. I don't have Instagram on any of my devices anymore, and I haven't in like 2 years. Okay, I guess I got to put it back on my iPad. So it's not even on my phone.
Oh,
So the
wow.
only time I check Instagram is on my iPad. Yeah.
Wow. Well, good for you. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining me. This was so
Yeah.
fun. We didn't even get through all of my questions. I have more questions.
Oh,
You'll have to come back.
take two. I'm
Yeah.
totally in.
Thank you everybody for watching. We have there's 9 people watching right now. Thank you so much. We appreciate you and your questions. Flipping Zippo gives us 2 thumbs up. Hello, Flipping Zippo. Wubnub says, "Okay, this was epic." So, there you go. You got epic, Ben. So,
Nice.
pretty
And if
great.
anybody has any questions, whatever, they can reach out to me. Or if
But
they
he'll
can't make it to
only
a
check
festival,
Instagram every once in a while.
or find me out. You go to my website and email me via there. And if anybody wants a private link to the movie, like I would, as long as you're gonna tell me what you think about it, like I'm cool with sending it. So because I
Ooh.
want to hear what people think.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
there
you
you go.
have to tell me what you think if I'm gonna send you a private link.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So
And it can't just be, it was great.
yeah, no. I want like real either questions or what thoughts it brought up. I just want something. You could hate it for all I care.
I
And tell
did
me it's
have one question, and I could have
okay.
just missed it, but I was curious why the main character didn't just try to call his dad when his dad went missing.
Um, it's sort of kind of answered in there in a
Okay.
subtle way. So it's in my mind like he does it off camera and that didn't happen. So it's like, oh, I've got to go look.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if you listen to the nurse really closely, she gives you the reason why calling didn't work.
Oh, okay. Okay. There you
Yeah.
go. Well, there's my
Yep.
feedback. You got it.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody. And just a reminder, if you ever miss one of these live streams, again, you can rewatch the entire archive on Patreon by supporting me there for $10 a month. I also have other perks. So for $2 a month, you get early releases of all my videos every week, except for the rest of this month, because as I mentioned, I'm taking the rest of the year off. And then for $5 a month, you also get access to my filmmaking templates. So I have filmmaking templates in there for you. I have like a storyboard template, a budget template. I have a film festival tracker template, a bunch of really cool stuff. So by supporting me for $5 a month, you can get access to that. And then there's a higher tier, and I can't remember the price because nobody does it, but there's a higher tier where I will give you feedback on your short film or short film script if you want feedback as well. That's where you can get it from me. Ben is much nicer than me, allowing you to reach him directly. But thank you again, everybody, for watching, and I hope you all have a happy holiday. I'm leaving for the holidays tomorrow, and I'm very excited.
Nice.
So, Ben, it was fantastic having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
I had a great time.
yeah, me too. We have to talk more, I'm sure. But
oh yeah, no, we will. We'll have to go like get a coffee or something.
Yeah.
And talk like directing stuff next.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
yeah.
That'd be so fun. All right, everybody.